Welcome to Football with Cheese. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is a college football recap because we're going to do something a little different on the podcast tomorrow night. We usually talk college football. But first, before I get into that, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so you never miss one of my videos. Tonight on the podcast, we usually do Tuesday night, we're going to do a watch-along for the Bengals-Broncos game. So make sure you check it out, watch the game, just keep it on mute. We're going to do it kind of like the Manning cast because it's not going to be super formal, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have guests. And instead of the podcast tomorrow night, what we're going to do is another watch-along, but we're going to do the Cincinnati Reds, Los Angeles Dodgers playoff game. That game, I believe, starts at 8 Central, so that would be 9 Eastern. I'm in Central Time Zone. I can't remember now. The Cubs game versus the Padres is on right before, so we'll probably start while that game is still going on. So link will be in the description. Make sure you check that out. 2 watch-alongs this week. And there's just so much that happened in college football, so I had to make this video because so many huge games went down that will have playoff implications later. All right, so let's get right into it. There were 2 very important games on Friday night that most of you probably did not watch. I wish they would put one big game a week on Friday. Like, you could have had Alabama, Georgia on Friday night, or Penn State versus Oregon, and I wouldn't have had to try to watch both of them. Or LSU, Ole Miss, and then put one of the games earlier. I wish they would do that. I know Friday night's high school football, but nobody cares. I could care less about high school football. If they miss the game, they can DVR it, whatever. But there were 2 important games that happened this Friday. And before the season, you probably looked at those not thinking they were that important, but they're huge now. Virginia beat Florida State 46-38 in overtime. 2 overtimes, excuse me. I called this on the podcast, trap game for Florida State, look ahead to Miami, on the road, and Virginia got a lot of transfers. It's the best Virginia team in years. It's the best Virginia offensive line maybe in a decade. They've had some real big offensive line issues. But they got Chandler Morris. He's a transfer from North Texas, but TCU before that. And Virginia gets up 14. They're moving the ball, no problem. But then Morris starts throwing interceptions, and Florida State has 21 unanswered points and gets up 21-14. But right before the half, there was a huge play. Jamari Taylor looked like he was stopped at the line of scrimmage, and all of a sudden he burst out for a touchdown to tie it at halftime. Huge momentum swing. Virginia absolutely had to do that. I want to talk about 2 plays in the game. In the first quarter, Florida State receiver catches the ball and just kind of fumbles it himself, just kind of drops the ball. And he clearly had 2 feet down and made a football move. But they review it and say incomplete, which was total bullshit. But, they needed Florida State to win the game because it's better for ratings next week if they're undefeated against Miami. They're both top 10 teams. So they were trying to help Florida State. Of course they were. And then the fourth quarter, the ball appears to hit the ground on a touchdown catch by Florida State, and they review it. They called it a touchdown on the field. So a lot of times they just keep that call. It looked like to me it touched the ground. It should have been incomplete. But once again, review needs Florida State, to win the game. So they were trying. They really tried. But just 2 terrible calls. I don't know why you have replay if you're not going to get the call right. But Virginia gets the win anyway. There was a interception to end the game in overtime after Virginia scored first. I've never seen so many fans rush the field in my life. When you rush the field, it literally was covered. The poor Virginia cornerback and wide receiver Florida State just disappeared in the crowd. Just disappeared. I hope they're okay. But that was insane. The whole city of Charlottesville, I think, was on that field. But just want to mention a couple things here. I think it's Jason Pavard. It's J-A-S-O-N. He's the defensive back for Virginia. He had 2 interceptions, the pick at the end. But he had a huge play earlier in the game when it was 7-0. Florida State's driving down the field to try to tie it. He bats the ball in the air and intercepts it. So instead of 7-7, Virginia goes down and gets up 14-0. And like I said, he had the game-ending interception as well. Just a huge game for him. And Virginia, they had a really tough loss at NC State, a game they absolutely should have won. But now they're 4-1. Their schedule is one of the easiest in the ACC. They don't play Miami. They don't play Notre Dame. They don't play Georgia Tech, and they don't play Clemson. Big game at Louisville this coming week. Louisville's, I think, favored. A little surprised about that. But Florida State, they beat Alabama and lose to Virginia. So obviously Virginia's better than Alabama, right? Am I right? Okay, no, they're not. But huge win for UVA, beating Florida State. Remind me of when I was a kid, they were ranked 2 at the time, FSU. First team to ever beat them in the ACC. That was a Thursday night game. Just reminded me of it. Okay, the other game to talk about real quick Friday night was TCU Arizona State. And while I don't know if either team was ranked, TCU might have been. While it doesn't seem like the most important game, it is for the Big 12 because it's such a competitive Big 12 this year. There's 5 or 6 teams that could win the conference. It's going to be crazy down the stretch. But what's going on with Arizona State and their starts? They lost to Mississippi State on the road, got down 17-0. Had a chance late. Their defense let them down. Pretty much the opposite in this game at the end, but still got down 17-0. They have got to start better. I don't know what's going on with the Sun Devils, but you have to start better than this. So it's 24-17 TCU, and I don't know what happened or what defense TCU called, but Jordan Tyson, one of the best wide receivers in the country, somehow gets wide open on 4th down. He should have been double teamed. If they did, they might have won this game. So Arizona State ties it more on Jordan Tyson in a second. And then they get a strip sack, and then the game-winning field goal went 27-24. Sam Levitt had an outstanding second half. Okay, so Jordan Tyson, let's talk about him. He's the best wide receiver prospect for next year's draft by far. I don't think he's the Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase level talent, but he's one notch down. He's, the Tedera McMillan, Garrett Wilson type. And there's just no other receiver in the country that's even close to him as far as draft prospect for next year. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams, for example, will be in the 2027 draft. They're not eligible. But it's not a great draft if you need a number 1 wide receiver. Everybody after that is pretty much number 2s and 3s. There might not even be another first-round pick at wide receiver. The position has some depth to it, but not strong at the top. But Jordan Tyson is absolutely incredible. And there was one play where he did a stutter step, and the corner bit, and then he was gone. So even though he's a big receiver, he's got size, he's got speed too. He just ran by that corner for a long touchdown. Done. You just can't bite on a move with Jordan Tyson. He's just such an incredible player. Arizona State gets a huge win, remains undefeated in the Big 12, even though they lost to Mississippi State. That's non-conference. Okay, Notre Dame, Arkansas. Arkansas gets the ball, goes down the field, no problem, but ends up with a field goal. You cannot kick field goals against Notre Dame. It's just not going to work. But Notre Dame, they're driving, and then the refs call phantom roughing the passer call. Apparently, you can't even touch Notre Dame quarterback, just like Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. You can't touch them. Oh, here comes the flag. Notre Dame, gets a lot of calls in their favor, as you know. So instead of a field goal, they get a touchdown. They never look back. Arkansas basically has to outscore you, and they just didn't score nearly enough, and they gave up 50-some points because Notre Dame has an incredible offense. Jeremiah Love, we talk about Jordan Tyson as the best receiving prospect, the best running back prospect by far is Jeremiah Love. It's a very weak running back class. We just had an amazing one this past year, but next year, not so good. But Jeremiah Love, he's giving me Marshall Faulk vibes. Yes, Marshall Faulk, the Hall of Famer. He's just such a good runner, such a good receiver. He had 4 touchdowns in the first half. He's just so good. He's just so good. I don't know where he'll go. Will he go top 10 like Bijan Robinson, Ashton Jeanty? It depends on how many quarterbacks and offensive tackles go in the top 10, because a lot could. Very strong positions in this draft. So he might not go top 10, but man, someone's going to get an incredible player. Auburn versus A&M. It looked like A&M was going to run away with it, but Auburn kept forcing them to try field goals. So it basically kept Auburn in the game. And Le'Veon Moss had a huge game. If your running back goes off, why aren't you getting touchdowns? I don't know. But 207 yards rushing for A&M. That was really the difference. And Auburn's offense just could not get going. It took them a while to get going last week against Oklahoma. But they even got a strip sack and an interception in the second half. But the strip sack, they weren't able to recover it. The interception, they did finally, I believe, get a touchdown off that. That was their one touchdown in the game. They only scored 10 points, and Jackson Arnold ran the ball in. But, A&M, they're still undefeated. They've beaten Notre Dame. but they got to figure out how to get touchdowns, because if they played like this against a much better SEC team, they would have lost. But they get the 16-10 win. LSU Ole Miss. So LSU started really good, goes up 7-0. So you're thinking, okay, LSU got some rhythm. They're looking good. Nussmeier was sharp on the first drive. And then they didn't really do much on offense for a while. It kind of went to sleep. The offense is just a mess. The offensive line's not very good. 4 new starters. But with Garrett Nussmeier, you should be much more efficient on offense. And they don't even try to run the ball. I think in the second half they actually tried a little bit. In the first half, they didn't even try. You have to establish a run, especially in college football, especially in the SEC. They did get an interception by P.J. Woodland off a Ole Miss wide receiver, but they only got a field goal out of it. You got to get touchdowns. You cannot keep kicking field goals and expect to win every game in the SEC. But LSU had a great drive, goes 80 yards, cuts it to 24-19, has a horrible play call on 2-point conversions with 5 minutes left, but Ole Miss has a 4th and 3, up 5, and they can punt it, but LSU would have had time. And instead, Kiffin goes for it. Really ballsy, have to get it. The receiver's wide open. Then they were able to kneel down. Huge win for Ole Miss. And why this is so big for them is they have a bye, and then Washington State. Why don't they have a bye before Washington State? So they're not going to lose the next 2 weeks. But then after that, they're at Georgia and then at Oklahoma. They can afford now to probably lose one of those games. If they lost LSU, they had to probably win both of them to make the playoff. We've talked about this on the channel. 9-3 in the SEC, you're not getting in. The 9-3 teams, none of them made the playoff last year. You have to go 10-2. So huge win for Ole Miss, and tough loss for LSU. And Brian Kelly just, I don't know, man. He's just not very likable. I do not like him. The way he handles the media, just his attitude, he's just an asshole. That's what he comes off as. Maybe he isn't. He seems like an asshole. It makes it harder to root for LSU. All right, Tennessee, Mississippi State. I joined this game when it was 24-20. I switched away from, I don't even remember what game it was. It was some blowout. Oh, Notre Dame, Arkansas. I switched away from that. And Chris Brazzell gets totally screwed. They call offensive pass interference on a long touchdown. They were jarring at each other. Total bullshit call. Take away a touchdown. I just don't understand why those calls, that real ticky-tack, could go either way, always are called when a touchdown happens or some big play, some interception, fumble return. And then all of a sudden a flag comes out. Oh, crap, we don't want that to happen. It just makes you a conspiracy theorist. It's always on a huge impact play of the game. Tennessee, luckily, was still able to win. Real crazy sequence in there where Mississippi State fakes a punt and they get the first down. And the next play, strip sack, fumble, return for touchdown. It's the second defensive touchdown of the game at that point for Tennessee. Good thing they had them both. Well, look, Tennessee wasn't perfect. They muffed the punt and they had an interception go off their receiver's hands. Just want to mention Braylon Staley on a 3rd and 6 was stopped short of a first down. And he just fights. He just runs the defender over, pushes hard, and fights to get it. What an effort. Gets it right at the 2-minute warning, and Joey Aguilar runs it in on the next play. Absolutely huge. But we go to overtime, and Tennessee scores in the first play, and Mississippi State gets goal to go and just is not able to get it in. Big win for Tennessee. They've already lost to Georgia at home. They could not lose this game. This would have pretty much eliminated them. They would have had to win out, and with their schedule, it's going to be really tough in the SEC to win all your games. They still have to play at Alabama, Oklahoma at home. So, huge win for the Vols. It's really tough to play at Mississippi State, and they're definitely improved from last year, no doubt about it. But Tennessee, all the mistakes they made, they should have won this easy. They're better than Mississippi State. 2 games left, Bama versus Georgia. Georgia goes 3 and out to start the game. Can't do that. And then Ty Simpson throws it deep for Ryan Williams, one of the best receivers in the country, drops it. Would have been a touchdown. But Jeremy Bernard had a very good game. He's had an amazing year. He's moving up the draft boards. Probably a late-round pick to start the year. Now probably looking like a day 2 pick. He's not big. He's not fast. He's not this super athlete. He's just good. He just makes plays. So this was a fun first half. It was 24-14 halftime, the opposite of Penn State, Oregon, because it kind of flipped. Second half was pretty boring, only 7 points scored. Georgia had the momentum. They had so many chances. And they had a 4th and 1 inside the 10. They run a quick play handoff. It gets stuffed. I get running up a quick play, but don't just run right up the middle. That's the play Alabama's probably expecting. If you're going to run a quick play, do something different. Just a bad play call. Also, Georgia, we talked about Ryan Williams with that drop. Taylor? Is his name Taylor? That's what it says in my notes. So whatever his name is. He drops a deep ball that would have been a touchdown with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. And Georgia would not score again. They ran for a ton of yards, but just a sloppy game in the second half. Bama missed a kick in there. And then one of the dumbest plays you'll see, 3rd and 1, and Ellis Robinson jumps on the pile, which you cannot do late. The play had been stopped. The whistle had been blown. Just so stupid. Personal foul, 15 yards, and that's the game. Big win for Alabama. They've already lost to Florida State. It was non-conference, but still, they went 9-3 last year. Bama did. And if they lost this game, they would have had to win out. And Georgia, because they beat Tennessee, they may be okay, but still, very tough loss. But Bama needed this more than Georgia. One more game, Oregon, Penn State. Like I said, the complete opposite of Georgia, Alabama. I was watching both of them. I have a 2 TV setup. But the Georgia-Alabama game was so exciting in the first half, so boring in the second. Complete opposite in this game. It was nothing like the Big Ten championship game last year, which was just a shootout. So much fun to watch. Penn State gets a field goal, then Oregon misses a field goal, then Oregon hits a field goal, and it's 3-3 for a long time. But Oregon gets a 17-3 lead, and Penn State did not give up. I'll give them credit. They go down, get a touchdown, go down, get another touchdown with 30 seconds left. But there was a play in this game where it was clear target on Penn State. Guy hits in the head. It was a brutal hit. And for some reason, some technicality, if you don't lead with your crown, it's okay to hit someone in the head. It should not be leading with the crown. It should be intent. Targeting should be intent to hit a guy in the head, not for how you lead the hit with your helmet. It's so stupid. Absolutely should have been called. I don't know what targeting is. I don't know what a catch is. I don't know what anything is. It just depends on the game. Depends if it's college or pro. It just changes every week. I don't understand how that's not targeting. But anyway, so Oregon scores first. And then Drew Aller, quarterback of Penn State, who had a really good fourth quarter, holy shit, makes one of the worst throws you'll see. I don't know what he was thinking. It was way underthrown. It was lazy. If there's no defender there for Oregon, it's going to be incomplete. It's just nowhere near where it needs to be. First play in overtime, interception, big win for Oregon on the road, and just tough loss for Penn State. I got some stats on this. James Franklin, since he became coach of Penn State, he's 1-15 versus top 5 opponents. Now, you shouldn't have a winning record against top 5 opponents. Very tough. But he's 1-15. Against top 10 opponents, he's 4-21. Whew. Against top 25 opponents, he's 14-26. Now, that's when they're top 25 at the time, not the end of the season. Because it's actually worse if you take into account how they finished the end of the year. But that top 25 stat, it should be 26-14, not 14-26. That's really bad. Penn State, you need to beat ranked teams. Here's another one. They're 4-19 against Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon. And 3-7 against Michigan, so a little bit better. 1-10 against Ohio State. Ooh. And 0-2 versus Oregon. Oregon just joined the Big Ten last year. So that's brutal. This is who Penn State is. They beat the teams they should. And they lose to the top 10 teams. The Michigans, the Ohio States, the Oregons. Notre Dame in the playoff last year. So they've got to get over the hump. But anyway, okay, reminder. Tonight we're doing a watch-along for Bengals. Broncos will probably start about 30 minutes before the game, do a little preview. Really looking forward to it. Like I said, it's going to be pretty laid back, kind of like the Manning cast. You ever watched that? And tomorrow night we're going to do Reds-Dodgers. We'll probably start toward the end of the Cubs-Padres game, so make sure you join for that. Probably about 30 minutes before each game starts. So look up what time it starts and what time zone. Time zones mess me up. I'm in Central, so I'll mess it up somehow. So make sure you subscribe. hit the bell for notifications, all that. Please give me a thumbs up, really helps the channel, and comment down below. Any of these college games, what do you think? Who do you think the best team in the country is? Let me know. Please share this with anyone who loves football as we continue to grow the channel. If you have not, please check these videos out. And tomorrow, I'm going to do an NFL recap. Used to do these on Monday, but I'm going to do them on Tuesday because I want to include the Monday night games. There's 2 tonight. Yes, Jets, Dolphins. Are you going to watch that? Let me know in the comments. So, yeah, check these out, and I'll see you in the NFL recap tomorrow.